What do you think of when you hear the phrase full coverage? What does that mean? Well, as a former claims adjuster, I used to hear that phrase all the time, and I hate that phrase. In my experience, the phrase usually means something different to different people depending on who's using it. Generally speaking, in the insurance industry, when you're talking about full coverage, you're talking about full damage coverage, which means that you have liability insurance and you have comprehensive and collision coverages, which cover the damages to your vehicle if ever you're involved in an accident, whether you're at fault for the accident or not. So, what happens if you're involved in a motor vehicle accident? It's not your fault. The guy who hits you doesn't have insurance, and you're injured in the process. Well, if you don't have the right coverages, your full coverage is not going to cover your bodily injury. Unless you have the correct coverages, quite frankly, you may be out of luck. Now, sure, you can sue the guy who hit you, who's at fault for your injuries. However, if he doesn't have money or the assets to cover your damages, then any judgment that you get against the guy is going to be nothing more than a pretty piece of paper from a court. So, if we're talking about full coverage, as most customers deem that word, then we have to talk about uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage. Just as they sound, uninsured motorist injury coverage is insurance coverage that covers you or your passengers in your vehicle. If you're involved in a motor vehicle accident, it's not your fault, and the individual who hit you doesn't have any insurance coverage. Underinsured motorist coverage is if you're involved in an accident. It'll cover you or your passengers for bodily injury if the individual who hit you doesn't have sufficient insurance coverage to be able to cover all of your injuries. Underinsured motorist coverage is important because of the economic climate, where if you are seriously injured in a motor vehicle accident and you have to receive some pretty serious treatment, you're going to blow through anybody's policy who has minimum limits. The state of Arizona only requires a minimum limit of one person of $15,000 liability coverage. Both the uninsured and the underinsured motorist coverages are available to assist with your medical expenses, any lost wages, loss of income, pain, suffering, or other personal injury claims that you may have as a result of an accident. In Arizona, insurance companies are required to offer uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage to all policy holders, and they must do so in writing, which also means that because these are not mandatory coverages but required by Arizona law, they also must be rejected in writing. Last tip for these coverages is that, and very importantly, uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage applies whether you're in your automobile or outside. If the injury that you sustain is caused by an automobile who is either uninsured or underinsured, then your uninsured and underinsured coverages are going to apply. So if you're a pedestrian, if you're in a bicycle accident involving a car, those coverages will apply, and generally speaking, they will apply to members of your household as well. Hope you found this information helpful. If you have any general questions, comment below, and I'll try to answer your questions as best possible. For specific questions, contact Curry, Pearson & Wooten for a free consultation.